The alarm screams filled every corner of the ship. Commander Sarah Chen ran down the narrow hallway, her boots clanging against the metal floor. Red lights flashed on and off, making everything look like a nightmare. The wandering star was dying, and she knew it. "Engineering report," she shouted into her communicator. The voice that came back was broken and scared. "Commander, the reactor is gone. We have maybe 6 hours of life support left. The radiation leak is getting worse." Sarah felt her stomach drop. They were 3 weeks from the nearest human outpost. Their distress beacon was broadcasting into empty space. Nobody was coming. Nobody even knew where they were. She reached the bridge and looked at her crew. 12 faces stared back at her. 12 people who trusted her to bring them home. Jenkins was holding his stomach, already sick from the radiation. Maria was trying to stop a nosebleed. They were all going to die out here in the dark between the stars. "Keep the beacon running," Sarah said, trying to keep her voice steady. Someone might hear us, but she didn't believe it. This region of space was empty. They had been exploring, mapping new routes, being brave and stupid like humans always were. Now they would pay the price. Hours passed like years. The ship got colder. The air started to taste wrong. Jenkins collapsed, and they carried him to the medical bay. The doctor shook his head. There was nothing he could do. The radiation had cooked them all from the inside. Sarah sat in her chair on the bridge and thought about Earth. She thought about her son, Marcus, only 5 years old. She had promised to come home. She had promised to bring him a star map showing where Mommy had gone. Now he would grow up without her. "Commander," the communications officer suddenly sat up straight. "I'm picking up something. A ship. It's not human." Sarah's heart jumped. "Can you identify it?" "No, ma'am. The design is nothing in our database. They're approaching us." Fear mixed with hope in Sarah's chest. Alien contact was always dangerous. Humanity had only met 3 other species, and one of those meetings had ended in violence. But what choice did they have? The alien ship was beautiful. It looked like a sea creature from Earth's oceans, all smooth curves and flowing lines. It was much bigger than the wandering star. Lights glowed soft blue along its hull. A voice came over the radio. It was strange, full of clicking sounds, but the translation software worked. "Human vessel, this is the Velkari ship, Gentle Current. We received your distress call. Your ship is dying. Do you need help?" Sarah almost cried. "Yes, God, yes. We have 12 crew members, radiation exposure, life support failing." There was a pause. Then the voice came back. "We are not supposed to interfere with other species. Our laws are clear, but my crew has voted. We cannot leave you to die. Prepare for docking." The next few hours were a blur. The Velkari looked like reptiles that walked on 2 legs. Their skin was green and covered in small scales. Their eyes were large and yellow, but their hands were gentle as they carried the sick humans to their medical bay. Captain Thesick stood over Sarah as his doctor worked on her crew. "Your species is very fragile," he said. His voice was kind, not mocking. "The radiation would have killed you in hours." "Why are you helping us?" Sarah asked. "You said it was against your laws." Tessick's head tilted in a way that seemed like a smile. "Because it is the right thing to do. Laws are important, but mercy is more important. My crew agreed. We will face punishment when we return home, but we will face it knowing we did what was right. They saved all 12 humans, every single one." The Velkari gave them medicine, food, and clean air. They fixed the wandering star enough to make it home. It took 2 weeks, and the Velkari stayed with them the whole time, making sure they were safe. On the last day, before the wandering star jumped back into human space, Sarah stood with Captain Thesick in the docking bay. "I don't know how to thank you," she said. "No, thanks are needed," he replied. "Go home to your families." Sarah shook her head. "No, you need to understand something about humans. We remember kindness, and we remember debts. My people will know what you did. We will not forget this." She pulled out her personal recorder and spoke into it, making sure the computer saved every word. I am Commander Sarah Chen of the Terran Explorer Corps. Today, Captain Thesich and the crew of the Velkari ship Gentle Current saved 12 human lives. They risked their careers and their freedom to help strangers. Humanity remembers its friends. We will not forget. She gave a copy of the recording to Thake. Hey, keep this. I don't know if we'll ever meet again, but if your people ever need help, any help at all, you send this to us. You understand? Any help at all? They took the recording device. He didn't understand. Not really. How could he? The Velkari didn't think the way humans did. They didn't carry debts across years and decades. They didn't build their entire culture on loyalty and remembering, but he would learn. The whole galaxy would learn. Sarah Chen went home. She held her son Marcus and told him about the kind aliens who saved Mommy. She filed her report, and it went into the Terran historical database marked important, marked permanent. Captain Theke was demoted when he got home, just as he expected. But he kept the recording device. Sometimes late at night, he would play it and listen to the human woman's promise. Neither of them knew that 40 years later that promise would shake the stars. The sky above Velkari Prime burned red with fire. Captain Kalithsik watched from the bridge of her small patrol ship as another orbital station exploded. The crew had been attacking for 3 weeks and her people were losing badly. Captain, we're receiving evacuation orders. Her communications officer said his scales were pale with fear. All military vessels are to escort the colony ships away from the home system. Shella felt her chest tighten. Evacuation. That meant they had lost. The Velkari were leaving their home forever. The Krayt Dominion had come without warning. Their massive warships had dropped out of hyperspace and immediately began attacking. They gave no reason. They demanded no surrender. They just killed. The Velkari were not warriors. They had a small defense force mostly for rescue operations and dealing with space debris. They had no battleships, no weapons that could match the Kryan. They had tried to negotiate, tried to talk, tried everything except fight back effectively. Nothing worked. Now thousands of Velkari were dead. Whole colonies were silent. Refugee ships crowded the space lanes, desperate to escape before the CF caught them. Chella guided her ship toward the refugee fleet. She could see hundreds of vessels, most of them civilian transports never meant for long journeys. Families were packed inside, carrying whatever they could grab. They were leaving behind homes, possessions, history, everything. How many got out? Sella asked quietly. Maybe half the population, her officer replied. Maybe less. The outer colonies had no warning. They're gone. Shella closed her eyes. Gone. Millions of people just gone. That night, after her ship docked with the main refugee fleet, Shella visited her grandfather in the medical ship. Elder Thesich was 90 years old, ancient Ferrari. He lay on his bed, his scales dull with age, but his eyes were still sharp. Grandfather, Chella said, sitting beside him, we're abandoning the homeworld tomorrow. The Kreth are too strong. Desk made a sound that was almost a laugh. We were always too peaceful, too kind. The galaxy mistakes kindness for weakness. The Council sent requests for help to every species we know. Chella said, everyone refused. They don't want to anger the Kree. Desk was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, did they contact the humans? Chella blinked. Humans? Grandfather. That was 40 years ago. They probably don't even remember us. I have something to show you. Tessic reached under his pillow with a shaking hand. He pulled out an old recording device. The human commander gave me this. She made me a promise. He played the recording. Sella heard the voice, strange and alien, speaking through the translator. Humanity remembers its friends. We will not forget. That was a lifetime ago, Sella said gently. She might not even be alive anymore. Humans live shorter lives than us, they agreed, but they also remember longer. It is strange, but I learned this about them. They carry debts across generations. They teach their children to honor the promises their parents made. Sela looked at the old recording device. It was foolish. The humans were far away. They had their own problems. Why would they care about the Velkari? But what other choice was there? The council won't authorize it, she said. They've given up on outside help. Tessic smiled, showing his old teeth. Then don't ask the council. You're a ship captain. You have access to long-range communications. Send the message yourself. I could be arrested for that. I was demoted for saving humans. They said, I never regretted it, not once. Sometimes doing the right thing means breaking the rules. Chella sat with that for a while. Then she stood up and kissed her grandfather's forehead. I'll do it. That night, alone in her ship's communication room, Sela composed a message. She attached the old recording from Sarah Chin. She added the star charts from that rescue 40 years ago. She included footage of the Kree attacks, the burning colonies, the refugee ships, and she wrote simply, We once helped you. We remember our friends, do you? She aimed the transmission toward human space and sent it at maximum power. Then she erased the logs so nobody could prove what she had done. She didn't expect an answer. The humans were weeks away, and the message might not even reach them. Even if it did, why would they care? 12 humans were saved 40 years ago. Why would an entire species risk war with the Kree for that? Chella returned to her duties. She escorted refugee ships. She watched her home world grow smaller in the distance. She attended briefings where the council discussed finding a new home somewhere far from the Kree. A week passed, then another. The Kree pressed their attack. More Velkari died. On the 14th day after she sent the message, Chella was on the bridge when the alarm started screaming. Captain, massive hyperspace signatures, her sensor officer shouted. Multiple contacts, dozens of them. No, hundreds. Chella's blood went cold. The Kree had found the refugee fleet. This was the end. Identify those ships, she ordered, her voice shaking. The sensor officer worked frantically. Then he looked up, his face confused. Captain, those aren't crest signatures. The energy pattern is different. I'm checking the database. I'm checking. Captain, those are human ships. Chella stood up slowly. How many? Still counting. Over 300 vessels, military ships, cargo haulers, private vessels, everything. They're all broadcasting the same message. What message? The officer's voice was full of wonder. They're saying we remember. The Velkari are under our protection. Chella ran to the observation window. She could see them now, dropping out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Ship after ship after ship, all bearing the markings of Earth. They came. After 40 years across all that distance, they came. Chella felt tears running down her face. She grabbed her communicator. Get me Elder Thesic. He needs to know. They remembered grandfather. The humans remembered. In his medical bed, he heard the news and smiled. He had been right about them. Humans were strange, violent, dangerous creatures. But they were also something else. They were loyal, and the crew were about to learn what that meant. Admiral Marcus Chen was drinking coffee in his office when the priority alert came through. He set down his cup and opened the file. What he saw made his blood freeze. The message was in Velkari. The translation appeared beneath it. Attached were star charts, old ones from 40 years ago, and there was a voice recording. His mother's voice. Marcus played it 3 times. Each time he heard his mother promise that humanity would remember, that they would not forget their friends. He pulled up the historical files. The Wandering Star Incident. 12 crew, saved by a Velkari vessel. Captain Thesic had risked everything to save humans he didn't know. The new message was clear. The Velkari were dying. An enemy called the CF was wiping them out. They needed help, and they had nowhere else to turn. Marcus stood up and walked to his window. Below him, Earth turned slowly, blue and green and beautiful. His mother had died 10 years ago. She had lived long enough to see him become admiral. Her last words to him were about duty, about honor. about keeping promises. He pressed his communicator. "Get me the Joint Chiefs. Emergency meeting now." 20 minutes later, Marcus stood in a room full of the most powerful people in the Terran military. He showed them the message. He played his mother's recording. "The Velkari are not our allies," General Thompson said carefully. "We have no treaty with them, no obligation." "They saved 12 of our people," Marcus replied. 40 years ago, Thompson said. "Most of those people are dead now. The universe has moved on." Marcus felt anger rising in his chest. "My mother is dead, but her promise isn't. She spoke for humanity. She said we would remember. One woman's promise doesn't commit our entire fleet." Another admiral said, "We need to think strategically. The CFT are powerful. This could start a war." Marcus looked around the room. He saw a calculation in their eyes. Politics, strategy, everything except the one thing that mattered. "Fine," he said. "You're right. We can't order our ships to help. That would be wrong." The generals relaxed slightly. "But we can ask them," Marcus continued. He pulled out his personal command tablet and accessed the protocol night candle. It was an old system built decades ago for emergencies. It created a direct communication line to every Terran ship captain, military or civilian. It bypassed all the normal chains of command. "Admiral, what are you doing?" Thompson demanded. Marcus started typing. "I'm sending a message to every captain in our fleet. I'm telling them what happened. I'm showing them my mother's promise, and I'm asking who wants to go help the Velkari." "You can't do that," Thompson said, standing up. "That's against protocol." "Protocol Nightingale exists exactly for this purpose," Marcus replied calmly. "For emergencies, when the normal command structure is too slow. I'm activating it. You'll start a mutiny," another general warned. "No," Marcus said. "I'm giving our people a choice." He finished typing and hit send. The message went out to every Terran vessel in space. Thousands of them. Military battleships, cargo haulers, explorer vessels, mining ships, passenger transports, everything. The message was simple. The Velkari once saved 12 humans when they had nothing to gain. Now they're dying. Here are the coordinates. Who's coming? For a moment, nothing happened. The room was silent, except for breathing. Then Marcus's tablet started beeping. One response, then another, then 10, then 100. The responses flooded in so fast the system started lagging. Every captain seemed to be answering at once. "Captain Martinez of the cargo hauler Big Bertha. I'm changing course. See you there. This is Commander Jackson on the destroyer Vengeance. My crew voted. We're going. Captain Liu of the mining ship Fortune's Favor. We're not military, but we've got some weapons. Count us in. Captain Williams on the passenger liner Starlight Dreams. I'm dropping off my passengers at the nearest station and heading to Velkari space. My grandparents were on the Wandering Star. I owe them. On and on they came. Military ships breaking formation. Cargo haulers dumped their loads at the nearest station. Private vessels changing course mid-journey. Even a prison transport ship sent a message. This is Warden Peters on the lockdown. My prisoners voted too. They want to help. We're coming. General Thompson stared at the screen in shock. This is insane. They're abandoning their posts, ignoring orders. I didn't give them orders, Marcus said quietly. I asked them a question. They're giving their answer. Within 2 hours, over 300 ships had committed to going to Velkari space. The number kept growing. Ship captains were coordinating on their own, forming strike groups, sharing intelligence, planning attack runs. The Terran military hadn't ordered any of this. They were just watching it happen. Sir, Marcus's aide said, pulling up a tactical display. They're organizing themselves. Captain Rodriguez on the Beijing is acting as fleet coordinator. They've established supply lines. Medical ships are grouping in the center, combat vessels on the outside. It's actually a pretty good formation. Marcus felt pride swell in his chest. This was humanity at its best. Not waiting for orders, not asking permission, just doing what was right. General Thompson sat down heavily. What have you done? I reminded them what we are. Marcus said the Velkari saved 12 people. Those 12 had children. Those children had children. How many humans are alive today because Captain Thesich showed mercy 40 years ago? Hundreds? Thousands? He turned to face the room full of generals and admirals. The Velkari didn't save 12 lives. They saved entire bloodlines, families, futures, and now they need help. And you want us to hide behind politics and strategy? Nobody answered. I'm going too, Marcus said. The Remembrance launches in 3 hours. Anyone who wants to join us is welcome. He walked out of the room. Behind him he heard arguing, shouting, people demanding he be court-martialed. He didn't care. In the docking bay, his ship's crew was already preparing for launch. They had heard the message too. They were ready. Marcus stood on his bridge and watched as more and more ships reported ready. The fleet was assembling itself, coordinating without central command, moving with a purpose that transcended orders. Sir, his communications officer said, we're receiving a message from the civilian ship Hope's Light. It's a medical vessel. They're volunteering to join the fleet. Welcome them, Marcus said. Sir, they're also asking if we know what we're getting into. The crew are supposed to be very dangerous. Marcus thought about his mother. About Captain Thesich risking his career to save strangers, about 12 humans who got to go home because someone showed them mercy. Tell them we know exactly what we're getting into, he said. Tell them we're paying a debt that's 40 years old. And tell them that humanity always pays its debts. The fleet prepared to jump. 317 vessels carrying thousands of humans, all heading toward a war that wasn't theirs. But it was theirs. The moment Captain Thesich chose mercy over protocol, it became theirs. The Corps had no idea what was coming for them. Commander Dreth of the Free Dominion watched his screens with satisfaction. Another Vikari colony was burning. The little reptiles were fleeing in all directions. Soon the entire sector would belong to the Kree. Sir, we're detecting hyperspace signatures, his sensor officer said. Dreth barely looked up. More refugees. Let them run. We'll hunt them down later. No, sir. These are different. Very different. I'm reading over 300 vessels coming in fast. That got Dreth's attention. He stood up and walked to the main display. The signatures were appearing on the edge of the system, ship after ship dropping out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Who are they? Dreth demanded. Unknown, sir. Wait, I'm getting identification codes now. They're human vessels. Terran ships. Dreth frowned. Humans? What are humans doing here? He pulled up what little data the Kree had on humanity. A relatively new species, moderate technology, no major wars in their history. They kept to themselves mostly. Nothing impressive. They must be evacuating the Velkari, Dreth decided. Probably some humanitarian mission. Ignore them unless they interfere. But the human ships weren't heading toward the refugee fleet. They were spreading out in attack formation, positioning themselves between the Kree fleet and the Velkari colonies. Sir, we're being hailed. It's the humans. Put it through, Dreth said, annoyed. The face that appeared on his screen was human, male, older, with gray hair and hard eyes. This is Admiral Marcus Chen of the Terran Expeditionary Force. The Velkari are under our protection. You will cease all hostile actions immediately and withdraw from the system. Dreth stared at him for a moment. Then he laughed. You're joking. You have no authority here, human. This is Kree territory now. Leave or be destroyed. The human expression didn't change. You have 1 hour to begin withdrawal. After that, we will consider you hostile and act accordingly. The screen went dark. Dreth looked at his officers. Several of them were smiling. They're insane, his weapons officer said. They're outnumbered. Our ships are bigger and better armed. Prepare for combat, Dreth ordered. Let's teach these humans not to interfere in Kree business. The Kree fleet had 87 warships, large, heavily armored vessels built for conquest. They had crushed the Velkari easily. These humans would be no different. The hour passed. The human fleet did not withdraw. Instead, they tightened their formation. All ships attack pattern theta. Dreth commanded, destroy them. The core ships surged forward, weapons charging. It should have been a quick battle. It wasn't. The human ships moved like nothing Dreth had ever seen. They didn't try to outgun the core vessels. Instead, they swarmed. 3 or 4 human ships would target a single Kree battleship, hitting it from different angles, coordinating their fire with perfect precision. "Sir, we're taking heavy damage on the forward line," his officer reported. "The humans are targeting our weapon systems and engines. They're disabling ships without destroying them." "Then destroy them!" Dreth shouted. But the humans were fast. Their smaller ships darted between Kree vessels, making it hard to get a clear shot. And when Kree ships did hit them, the humans didn't retreat. They kept coming. Dreth watched in horror as a human cargo hauler, clearly damaged and venting atmosphere, suddenly accelerated toward one of his battleships. "What is that ship doing?" "Sir, it's on a collision course." The cargo hauler slammed into the Kree battleship at full speed. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire. "They're ramming us," Dreth's weapons officer shouted. "They're deliberately sacrificing their ships." It got worse. A group of human medical vessels had positioned themselves near a cluster of Velkari colony ships. When Kree fighters tried to attack the colonies, the medical ships moved into the line of fire. They had no weapons, but they used their own hulls as shields. "Sir, the humans are protecting the Velkari civilians with their own bodies," his sensor officer reported. "They're taking hits meant for the refugees." Dreth couldn't understand it. What kind of species did this? The Velkari were nothing to the humans. Why were they dying for them? "Focus fire on that large human ship," Dreth ordered, pointing at Admiral Chen's flagship. "Kill their leader." The crew fleet concentrated their weapons on the Remembrance. The human flagship shields blazed with energy, flickering and failing under the assault. But before they could finish it, a dozen human ships moved in front of the Remembrance. They formed a wall with their own vessels, absorbing the fire meant for their admiral. "They're protecting him," Dreth's officer said, voice filled with disbelief. "They're letting themselves be destroyed to keep him alive." 3 human ships were blown apart, but the Remembrance survived and the human counterattack was brutal. Hours passed. The battle turned into chaos. The CFT had better ships, but the humans had something else. They had coordination that seemed almost telepathic. They had a willingness to sacrifice themselves that Dreth found terrifying. And they had a fury that drove them forward no matter the cost. "Sir, we've lost 32 ships," his officer reported. "Our casualties are severe. The humans are not stopping." Dreth looked at his screens. Human ships were everywhere, pressing the attack with relentless efficiency. Even the civilian vessels were fighting, using whatever weapons they had improvised. The mining ship had attached its industrial laser to a targeting system and was cutting through CRT armor. A passenger liner was using its mass as a battering ram. Even the prison transport was firing crude missiles made from its cargo containers. Every human ship seemed to know what every other human ship was doing. They moved like a single organism with 300 bodies. "Sir, the humans are broadcasting a message on all frequencies," his communications officer said. "What does it say?" "It's repeating over and over. It says the Valkyrie saved 12 of us. We will not let them die. You cannot break us. You cannot stop us. Leave now or be destroyed." Dreth felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: fear. The Kree were warriors. They had conquered dozens of species, but they had never fought anyone like this. The humans weren't fighting for territory or resources. They were fighting for loyalty, for honor, for a debt that was 40 years old. "Sir, Admiral Chen is hailing us again." Dreth accepted the call. The human admiral's face filled his screen. There was blood on his forehead and smoke behind him, but his eyes were steady. "Commander Dreth," Chen said quietly, "I'm going to say this once more. Withdraw from Velkari space right now, or my fleet will destroy every single one of your ships. We will not stop. We will not surrender. We will die before we let you harm our friends." Dreth looked at his tactical display. He was losing against an enemy that should have been easy to defeat. He was losing. "Why?" Dreth asked. "Why are you doing this? What are the Velkari to you?" Chen smiled, and it was a terrible smile. 40 years ago, they saved 12 humans. Those 12 people mattered to us. Every single life matters to us. And we remember. We always remember. Dreth made his decision. All ships withdraw. Full retreat. Get us out of this system. The Kree fleet turned and fled. Behind them. The human fleet held position, making sure the retreat was real. On the UR Remembrance, Admiral Chen slumped in his chair. They had won, but the cost had been high. 43 human ships destroyed, thousands of casualties, but the Velkari were safe, the refugees were safe, the debt was paid. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Captain Catholic," his communications officer said. Chen smiled, put her through. The Velkari woman's face appeared on his screen. She was crying. "Admiral Chen, I don't have words. You came. You all came. You saved us. Your grandfather saved us first," Chen replied. "We're just returning the favor. That's what friends do." 3 weeks had passed since the battle. The CFT were gone, fled back to their own territory. The Velkari homeworld was safe. The refugees were coming home. Admiral Marcus Chen stood on the surface of Velkari Prime, watching the reconstruction efforts. Human engineers worked side by side with Velkari builders, repairing damaged structures and rebuilding what the CFT had destroyed. A young human woman, barely 20, was teaching a group of children how to reinforce a wall. A Velkari elder was showing a human technician their traditional building methods. Everywhere Marcus looked, he saw cooperation and friendship. "Admiral Chen," a voice said behind him. Marcus turned to see Captain Sela Thesic approaching. Beside her, supported by a walking frame, was a very old Velkari. His scales were dull with age, but his eyes were bright. "This is my grandfather," Sela said. "Elder Thesic, he wanted to meet you." Marcus felt his throat tighten. This was the man, the one who had saved his mother and her crew 40 years ago. The one who started everything. They moved forward slowly. He looked up at Marcus with those yellow eyes. "You are Sarah Chen's son. I see her in your face." "She spoke of you often," Marcus said. "She told me and my children about the kind alien captain who saved her when he had nothing to gain." "I gained something," Thes said softly. "I gained the knowledge that I did the right thing that was worth any punishment." Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. "My mother left this for you. She recorded it before she died. She made me promise to deliver it if we ever found you again." He pressed play. His mother's voice filled the air, older than in the first recording, but still strong. "Captain Thake, if you're hearing this, then my son has found you. I don't know what the circumstances are, but I know this. Humanity keeps its promises. We always have. We always will. Thank you for giving me the chance to watch my son grow up. Thank you for giving him the chance to exist. You saved 12 lives, but you saved thousands more. All the children we had, all the grandchildren, they're all here because of you. We will never forget that. Never." The desk's eyes filled with tears. Velkari didn't cry the same way humans did, but the emotion was the same. "I had no idea," he whispered. "I just wanted to help." "That's all it takes," Marcus said. "One act of kindness. One moment of choosing to do the right thing, even when it's hard. You changed everything." Sela spoke up. "Admiral, the Velkari Council wants to hold a formal ceremony. They want to thank your people properly to establish a permanent alliance between our species." Marcus nodded. "My people would like that." The ceremony was held in the central plaza of the Velkari capital. Thousands gathered, both Velkari and humans. The entire human fleet had come down to the surface. Even the wounded who could walk attended. The Velkari council leader, an ancient female named Ses, stood at the podium. "Today we honor the humans of Terra. They came across the stars to save us. They asked for nothing in return. They expected no reward. They came because 40 years ago we showed mercy to 12 of their people. They came because they remember their friends." She turned to Marcus. "Admiral Chen, your people have shown us something we thought was rare in the galaxy. True loyalty, unshakable honor. You have saved our entire civilization. How can we possibly repay this debt? Marcus stepped forward. The plaza was silent. He looked out at all those faces, human and watching him. Elder Thesic asked me the same question. 40 years ago. Marcus said, "When my mother asked how to thank him for saving her crew, he said no thanks were needed. He said he was just doing what was right." Marcus walked over to where they sat in a place of honor. "That's my answer to you. No thanks are needed. You saved 12 humans when you could have ignored us. Those 12 people had children. Those children had children. My grandmother was on that ship. If she had died, I wouldn't exist. My children wouldn't exist. Their children wouldn't exist." He turned back to the crowd. "How many humans are alive today because one Velkari captain chose mercy? How many of us owe our existence to that one decision? Hundreds? Thousands? Maybe more." Marcus's voice grew stronger. "Your grandfather didn't save 12 lives, Captain Sella. He saved entire bloodlines, entire futures. Every person in my fleet is here because of him. Every single one of us. We're all connected to those 12 people he saved." The crowd was absolutely silent. "So, you ask how you can repay us?" Marcus continued. "You already did 40 years ago. You showed us that there are good people in the universe, people worth fighting for, worth dying for. That's a gift beyond measure." He stood up slowly, supported by his walking frame. He moved to stand beside Marcus. "I have something to say," the old Velkari announced. Everyone turned to listen. "When I saved those humans, my government punished me," Thes said. "They said I broke the rules. They said I interfered where I shouldn't. They were wrong. I made the right choice, and I knew it in my heart. But I never imagined this. I never thought that one decision would matter so much." He looked at Marcus. "Your mother promised me that humanity would remember. I kept a recording for 40 years. On bad days, I would play it and wonder if she meant it, if humans really remembered debts that old." The voice cracked with emotion. "Now I know you came with hundreds of ships. You fought for us. You died for us for a kindness shown 4 decades ago. I do not understand humans fully, but I understand this. You are the most loyal species I have ever encountered, and I am proud to call you friends." Marcus embraced the old Velkari gently. Around them, humans and Velkari began to cry and cheer together. Captain Rodriguez, who had coordinated the fleet during the journey, stepped forward. "Admiral, the captains have something to say." One by one, the human captains came forward. Each one told their story. "My grandfather was on the Wandering Star," Captain William said. "He met my grandmother after coming home. I'm here because of you, Elder Thesic. My wife's great-aunt was saved by you," Captain Martinez said. "Our children exist because you showed mercy." "I'm not related to anyone on that ship," said Captain Liu. "But I came anyway because that's what humans do. We protect our friends." On and on they came. Each one connects themselves to that moment 40 years ago. Some through blood, some through marriage, some through simple loyalty. It didn't matter. They all came. Ciaz, the council leader, watched this with wonder. "I don't understand," she said to Marcus. "Not all of these people are related to the Wandering Star crew. Why did they come?" Marcus smiled. "Because when you save one human, you save all of us. We're connected. We're family. Even when we're not related, that's what humanity is. We remember every kindness. We repay every debt, and we protect our friends no matter the cost." He looked out at the crowd. The crew learned that. They thought they could attack the Velkari without consequences. They were wrong. They attacked our friends. They attacked people we owed a debt to. So we came. All of us. "What happens now?" Sella asked. "The CFT might return." "They won't," Marcus said firmly. "We're building a defense station in orbit. A permanent one, crewed by both humans and Velkari. If the crew come back, they'll face both our fleets. And I suspect once this story spreads through the galaxy, other species will think twice before attacking the Velkari." Why? Sess asked. Because everyone will know that the Velkari are friends of humanity, and everyone will know what happens to species who hurt our friends. The ceremony ended with a feast. Humans and Velkari ate together, shared stories, and made friendships that would last generations. Children of both species played together in the plaza. Late that night, Marcus stood with Thea on a balcony overlooking the city. The old Velkari looked at the stars. Your mother kept her promise, Thessic said softly. She always did, Marcus replied. That's what made her human. I still don't fully understand your species, Thea admitted. You are violent and dangerous. You brought hundreds of ships to a war that wasn't yours. You lost thousands of your people, all for a debt 40 years old. Marcus nodded. That's what makes us human, too. We're dangerous, yes. We're violent, yes, but we're also loyal. We're also honorable. We remember our friends, and we protect what we love. He put his hand on the old Velkari's shoulder. You showed mercy when you didn't have to. You chose kindness when it would have been easier to ignore us. That changed everything. Not just for 12 people, but for our entire species. You taught us that there are people worth saving in this universe. They looked up at him. And now everyone knows. Marcus said, they know that if you help a human, even one human, even 40 years ago, we will cross the galaxy to help you back. They know that we pay our debts. They know that we remember. Far across the galaxy, in a trading post near the frontier, AEO young alien trader was helping a stranded human crew repair their ship. His partner asked why he would risk it. The trader pointed to a news feed playing on a screen. It showed human ships protecting Velkari colonies. It told the story of Captain Thessic and the Wandering Star. It explained how 300 human vessels had come to repay a 40-year-old debt. That's why the traitor said, because if you help a human, they remember. 40 years later, an armada shows up. I've heard the stories now. Everyone has. You help a human, and they never forget. His partner looked at the news feed nervously. That's terrifying, the traitor smiled.